as they just wish to hold that winner's trophy.
All right, well, our players are set. The countdown has begun. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. It's game number 4 now between Violet and Polt.
IPL 5. Welcome to IPL 5, Cloud Kingdom.
That's right, Cloud Kingdom is where Polt has chosen to make his stand, and he's got to go through this guy here in the top right-hand corner. Our red Zerg player, he is...
Azubu Violet.
Violet feeling very confident, just one game away from a rematch with Leenock in the grand finals. When he still has to take out our blue Terran player. Give it up for him from TSL. He is...
TSL Polt.
Like how everyone's screaming and cheering. There's always one person with the golf clap. Well done. Starcraft.
The slow clap, the epic emotional slow clap.
I believe in you, Polt. All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, on Cloud Kingdom. Polt has chosen a couple of very interesting maps to try and make his stand. He's going to go back to his command center first. This is another good map that's there for 11-11 racks, but you can see Violet getting out there with a very, very, very early drone scout just to make sure that nothing weird is going to pop out of him.
Yeah, and interestingly, Polt is going to make that command center on the low ground this time, whereas he did on the last, well, in the first map he did it on the high ground, which shows that Polt is looking a little bit for that tiny extra advantage. Of course, you don't need to fly down the command center to the low ground, which will gain you a little bit extra minerals. But what it's weak against is an early pull from a Zerg. However, he probably identified that Violet is so comfortable with his standard play that he's more concerned about what Polt rush might be coming rather than trying to launch a rush of his own. So Polt cutting some corners here, and that's what pro gamers do, man.
And Violet is a kind of player who can punish that every now and again. This is a pretty good map for strong Roach play at the beginning if Violet wants to go down that route. So I'll be keeping a close eye on what Violet does from here on out. From now, though, he is actually bypassing gas and maybe feeling more like game number 1 when he went for that 6-queen build. Probably not going to be a 6-queen build here, more like that 4-queen build just to get creep spread started. Gas a bit earlier on, double gas, something like that. But we'll certainly find out here in just a minute.
Yeah, I heard from Violet's manager here that he was pretty comfortable about this match, so he doesn't necessarily need to throw any curveballs towards Polt. If he can just make sure that he limits the amount of mistakes that he makes, he might be looking to just comfortably play every game and just play reactively.
All right, well, Violet's making 8 lings, not quite the 12 lings that we've seen before out of a couple of players, but this is still certainly enough to put on pressure, especially because it hits at that time when a Terran player is usually investing in the reactor on the barracks. They've only got the 3 Marines out, and so it is going to require some pretty good control on Polt's part to hold against these lings.
Yeah, this is a very nice rush here with those 8 Zerglings. There's just 2 Marines out, and we see no reactor coming up yet. There we go, reactor on the barracks. So once again, that's all he's going to have. 2 Marines, no full wall off on the ramp, no bunker, and Polt will be forced to pull his units back. And can he lift that supply depot up in time? No, he cannot.
He actually has to sit there and just try and duke this out, so he has to pull some SCVs off the line, loses 1 SCV, and even though he may not lose a lot more, and he's actually lost 2 SCVs now, so this has been worth it, and a mule on top of that is what it looks like this one's going to fall down. This has still been a pretty good attack from Violet. He kills 2 SCVs, he kills a mule, he pulls a lot of workers off the line, he denies mining time. We can already see it reflected in the supplies. So Polt has a couple of options from here. Does he just immediately drop down a 3rd command center to try and make that economy back up, expose himself to something that may hit from Violet? Not really sure where he goes from here.
Yeah, definitely he has certain options, as you said, Kevin, and he's chosen to go with the 2 extra barracks, so we might be seeing some more Marauder play.
Yeah. That's definitely a possibility. It did great damage in game number 1. If we see that single engineering bay, I think that's exactly what we're going to get.
Yeah, and it's also the kind of map for it, don't you think, Kevin? I mean, it's a kind of shorter distance map.
Yes, I agree. The same reason that I mentioned before, that it's a pretty good map for early roaches from Violet if he wants to try something sneaky up a game and put pressure on his opponent, also holds true here for Polt. So he's falling back on what he knows a little bit better. He's already got one tech lab coming up. The next 2 add-ons are going to be very telling, though, because if he decides to go for just double reactor, well, then he's just reinvesting back into his bio play. He's going to hit a little bit longer game, but already we can see Marauders are being added in.
Yeah, and of course, Polt, I think he's been referred to before as Marauder King Prime. Any excuse he can get to make Marauders, he will definitely abide by that.
Whoa, and he's making 3 tech labs. If we remember in game number 1, it was actually 2 tech labs and a reactor. He still had a few Marines in there, but this time, all-out Marauder pressure.
Yeah, Polt putting all of his eggs into one basket. I'm a little bit worried for Polt, though, as that Overlord there in that sweet spot outside of the natural of Polt will be able to see that attack the moment it moves outside of the base. And this game, Violet is making a Roach Warren. He feels like he did enough damage with that attack. He killed a total of 4 SCVs. He killed one of the mules, which had 40% timer left on it. A mule with full timer will mine 270 minerals. So with 40%, that's another roughly 125 or so minerals lost for Polt, just on average. So Violet did enough damage that he feels like he can justify spending that 200 minerals on the Roach Warren.
And not only that, but Violet is actually playing incredibly defensive right now. He's preempting, he's getting his Spore Crawlers right now. He doesn't want to die to any sort of weird play out of his opponent. Violet not going to get far enough to see exactly what's coming at him, so he may not have the best read on this. He's made a few Zerglings, he's made a couple of Roaches for now. There's the Baneling Nest, and he is going to need that to deflect this powerful attack that's going to make its way out for Polt.
Yeah, but now very nice that Marine killed the Overlord, which tried to swoop in from the bottom side of the base. And the fact that Violet is making a Spore Crawler now shows that he has not made an accurate read yet on what exactly is going down. A lot of Marauders are being produced here, and as Stimpack is about to finish, we might be seeing Polt moving out here. And Violet just made a round of 9 drones. Oh no, he just made 9 drones. He cannot afford that.
Okay, well, Polt's making his way out with a lot of stuff, and now Violet sees this. He's already restarted a couple of Roaches, and now Polt is forced to pull back his Hellions. Is he just going to pull his SCVs along with this attack? He does protect inside of his main quite well, so eventually cleans that out, but did that buy Violet enough time to get the defenses in place? He's got 4 Spine Crawlers on the way. He's going to give up his third base and defend everything at the natural.
Now, Polt has more than double the army supply of Violet. More than double the army value. Those Hellions, they were able to swoop back in, and the Marauders barely missed the stride. So this attack is nearly not delayed at all by those Zerglings. And Violet, he's supply blocked as well. These 2 evolution chambers are upgrading, but they won't be able to finish the upgrades.
It's actually just before they finish shoot. That is a huge disaster for Violet. So Polt is doing a lot of damage. The Spine Crawlers are up, though. The Roaches are moving to the front. There are a few Queens up there. Does Polt have what it takes to tie this up? Scan goes down, he cleans up a couple more creep tumors. He's just waiting for the perfect opportunity. He actually forgot concussive shells, so concussive shells are coming up right now. That'll help him track down those units on creep a lot more effectively. He does a nice job isolating this base. At the very least, he will get himself a hatchery kill here, but he certainly wants to be making the killing blow very soon.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, concussive shells will slow down any units that it tags, so it does make it easier to shoot them down. Luckily, it's an upgrade that finishes very quickly, so it's only a momentary delay here. And in the meantime, Polt has been rallying units here. His army has been increasing in size, and all that Violet has been able to produce is Roaches, and they do not have Roach speed yet. Well, they're about to finish.
Violet, though, he's going to a bunch of upgrades. Burrow, he's got an infestation pit coming up, so he's investing in a lot, and he needs to be making whatever units he can, but his production is so limited. He's supply blocked right now. Violet actually can't make a single thing. He has to make an emergency 3 Overlords right now, so there's going to be a moment when the next unit's reinforced for Polt that he is going to have a staggeringly large force.
So Kevin, right, pure theory craft, attacking in 30 seconds from now, between 0 and 30 seconds from now would be ideal for Polt. He doesn't necessarily know that, but because of the supply depot, because of the investment in that infestation pit, if Polt attacks within now and 20 seconds, it would be perfect for him. He might win. Is he going to do it, or is he just going to do a contain, go for that expansion, go for tanks, and rely on the fact that Violet is just on 2 bases and just satisfy himself with that knowledge?
He is just sitting back, but Violet is continuing to tech up through this. Yes, Polt has still gained himself a really nice position. Whoa. He's going to have a quicker third base, but he doesn't have all of his units in position, so he stims up his Marauders, trying to do some damage. Now coming back with a splash from the Hellions, and he's able to push those forces back. They go back to the Spine Crawlers, though, and now Polt's force is small enough that he can't directly assault the Spine Crawlers at the moment, so he's going to have to be content with killing as much of the army as he can. And
he is killing a lot of the army. Violet keeps moving out and then moves back in, and he loses a couple of roaches every time. Now, the trade wasn't too bad for Violet, and he also reduced his army by quite a bit. So suddenly, Polt's army looks like an army that would just be perfectly yearning for one fungal growth, and then a second, and then a third, and then it would go down. Whereas before, it was too big for that. So maybe that is Violet's plan here in reducing the size of this army.
And guess what? 7 infestors are popping out right now for Violet, so he still will have a very strong army. He breaks the contain for a little while. He'll be able to reestablish a third base, and he starts to make those infestors across the map. Now behind this, Polt, he's getting his starport. He put down 2 factories, so he's double producing tanks. He's moving back into his bio production. Because he had canceled those upgrades from Violet before, you can only see he's just restarting +1 Carapace now at the moment when Polt is just about to finish 1-1.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kevin. I mean, those upgrades, they were never able to be restarted yet. That is really the way that Violet is behind. 1-1 is indeed about to finish up for Polt, whereas the army supply, however, is bigger right now for Violet. He was able to crush that army without the use of infestors, and they're moving across the map right now. Are we going to see a shower of infested Terrans as he tries to damage Polt back? Polt right now, he's in a pretty entrenched position. He has at least 4 tanks with siege upgrade. He's got that 3rd command center. He's looking to land it, but he's not terribly invested in landing that 3rd orbital right now.
No, not really. And Violet's at the point, though, where he has to take a risk. He can either take a risk by trying to do damage to his opponent, which that's what he's doing, or expand all over the place. And he's going to try to do damage right here. 3 siege tanks are already set up. There's still a lot of energy left on these infestors, and all of those units actually are clumped up. They're going to make their way out a little bit further. They get fungal growth, and we'll see if Violet can follow this up with one after another. The tank sitting in the back will pick off a couple of infestors on the way out, but Violet's done a little bit of damage here.
Yeah, I felt like Polt might be making the mistake of his life there as he was trying to move out against a Zerg who had been on 2 bases for a very long time. But he does stabilize for now. He didn't lose everything yet. He didn't lose his natural, but I feel like maybe he just lost a little bit too much. I really question whether it was absolutely necessary to move out that position yet, but of course I yield to his wisdom.
All right, well, he's going to scan, make sure there's no burrowed stuff, stopping the landing of that 3rd command center, but Violet's back on his 3rd now. He's expanding to a 4th. He's taking the appropriate necessary risks. He delayed that 3rd base, gave him enough time to double expand. That gets Violet at least to a little bit of parity. I don't think he's still in the best of positions right now. He's certainly not as far ahead as he would like to be, but at least he's going to make a game of this.
Yeah, oh, look at this. There's no missile turret missing out on elementary defenses, as once again, we're going to see in this tournament a burrowed infestor attack.
Oh no.
How exactly is Violet going to use this? Is he going to use it in combination with a frontal attack, or is he just waiting to fungal growth the SCVs?
Either is going to be a very, very powerful response to what Polt does. Hopefully Polt will be able to pick up on that at some point, but for now, he's positioned all of his units up towards the front. The remainder of the infestors are running back home, and Violet has just finished up his 4th base, so now going to be mining off of 7 and 8 gas momentarily, and that'll allow him to move up into very high tech if he so desires.
It looks like Violet is waiting for the perfect moment to launch these infested Terrans, perhaps right after he sees a wave of units departing from the main base. Or if, yeah, maybe that's what he's waiting for, because he has those infestors in there already, but he's just waiting maybe for Polt to be distracted, perhaps.
Well, Violet has made a nice defensive position for himself. He's moved all those spine crawlers from the very beginning of the game and makes use of them over on the left-hand side. And here we go. Polt has moved out, so now we're going to keep an eye on those infested Terrans at the same time. The drop gets picked up on. Where are those infested Terrans at? Looks like Zerglings are actually chewing down the wall over at the 3rd while Polt is out of position. They get through, and they're going to start doing some economic damage. There's the infested Terrans inside of the main. They're going to immediately go after the SCVs, and then potentially this command center right afterwards. So Polt has to do some very real damage right now.
Violet is doing some epic power play here. He's all over the place, harassing the 3rd, harassing the main. I think the main orbital is going to die after all those SCVs died. We do see it being focused down, and that's definitely going to go down. Polt is very invested in making this attack work. Zerglings once again in the 3rd base. Polt's economy is being devastated here, even as he's doing a big death push, trying to kill the 4th base.
Now, Polt is attacking at the same time. He's sieging up this base. He is going to get 1 hatchery kill, but there are so many units left over for Violet. He's done everything he's needed to, because Polt afterwards, his economy is in shambles. If he doesn't do equal economic damage to what was just done to him, he will have no way to remake an army.
Yeah, of course the drop is nice there. There's a lot of Zerglings are being pulled back. This might be the moment that Polt is looking for to move ahead with the siege tanks. No tier 3 units yet for Violet. He's abandoning his third base here.
Yeah, so Violet is going to lose 2 hatcheries, and that may be exactly what Polt needed, but because Polt only has 2 orbital commands himself, those infestors, those Zerglings are still running around inside of his main, inside of his natural. He does not have a response to those. So we have some sort of almost a weird base trade situation where Polt has to get as much economic damage done as is humanly possible, but here it comes. Violet's going to come from around the side. He's already killed most of the tanks. The Zerglings are still running free on through. The Banelings have connected with mostly Marines. Does Violet have enough to continue pushing through this? Will Polt be able to stabilize? He runs up with the Marines. It's going to be very close, and it looks like Polt has enough units left over. But Polt now, he has not killed that many of the workers. There's still 63 workers, but he's got to drop working inside of the main. Gets his first few units fungled up at the front, but he needs to push in, and he needs to do more economic damage right now.
Yeah, look at that army supply, 85. Well, the total supply, 85 against 100 from Violet, but most of that is in army for Polt. He only has 22 SCVs, so his actual army is really big, and they're going to do really well against the drones here. Nice hold position micro there by drones, but as there are no army units left, they're going to be able to kill some drones now. Violet moving in from the back, more Marines coming in. They're 2-2 upgraded against 1-2 Zerglings. Polt looks like he might be able to finish off Violet here.
It's very close, though. That was a really, really nice surround from Violet with the Zerglings that just popped out of his hatcheries. And we discussed the Zergling, or I'm sorry, the upgrade disparity earlier on in this game. Actually killing those evolution chambers is what's giving Polt a fighting chance against these. Having that little bit of an upgrade advantage is very critical for him right now.
Yeah, very far-reaching effects there. Wow, in the meantime, 3 infestors are still in the base of Polt. He leaves 1 in the natural and is moving with 2 to the third base there. As let's see what he's going to be using them for. He could throw up a whole bunch of infested Terrans.
Oh! And 2 infestors get picked off, and that is a huge win for Polt.
Yeah, I guess that was kind of Violet giving Polt 2 infestors for free.
All right, well,
he tried to land that, for those people who don't know, of course, he tried to land on that orbital on the Zergling, and then the scan was forced. Wow, nice fungal growth there with Banelings connecting as well.
Polt is down to so few forces. He has 2 more siege tanks. They're actually sitting in a nice defensive position. Looks like they were used to kill a few Zerglings sitting out there. He needs to eventually pull those back a little bit further. Medevacs are going to fall. We've got 2 tanks, 11 Marines against the army of Violet at the moment. This is still so tense.
Now, all the minerals are gone in the natural. Ironically enough, they're not gone in the main base of Violet. He could still mine in the main base, but instead, right now, he's forgetting about them for a moment, and he's choosing to long-distance mine from that third base. He does have 10 infestors, and 10 infestors are great in these kind of low economy situations. Polt cannot afford to unsiege his tanks at any moment whatsoever. He needs to unsiege them. And he probably needs to build a missile turret right next to them, as he cannot afford to get burrowed infestors getting up real close with him. Now, and that's actually exactly what's happening.
Now, Polt, surprisingly, despite the fact that he has fewer workers overall, actually has a better economy because he was able to float down another orbital command to that third and operate and use efficiently those mules. But here come more infestors swinging their way through. It looks like the one inside of the main did get cleared out. That's why this next one is being pushed through. Oh, but this would be a big win for Violet. He captures the drop. He's going to fungal that over and over again, and Polt, unfortunately, is going to lose that.
Very nice game sense there by Violet, catching that drop. And there's still an infestor on the high ground here at the third, potentially doing 2 fungal growths in a row, and will be able to kill a lot of SCVs there.
All right, so we've stabilized now. It looks like Violet is putting up a third base once again. Losing 2 hatcheries, though. Not making a stand over at the third was probably wiser because obviously he wasn't going to be able to meet that force head on. Didn't really have the opportunity to do so. Oh, nice scan. He picks off the infestor on the high ground. Polt only after 1 fungal growth hitting those units, and that was a little while ago, keeping much more aware of that position.
33 drones, 16 SCVs. This is what it's come down to. Burrowed infestors coming in. How did he scan that?
I don't know.
It's so hard to see those burrowed infestors. I think for once, Polt actually just saw it.
All right, well, he picks up on it, and now we find ourselves in a position. There's 16 Zerglings, 8 Banelings, 10 infestors against 31 Marines, 6 tanks, 3 medevacs. Polt has a very strong army right now, well positioned. He's going to be able to crush what Violet has, but if he gets caught out in the open, it's going to be a very bad situation for him.
Wait a minute, Kevin. Did what I just see, wasn't it intentional from Polt, flying in a medevac with no units in it, just to make Violets expend about 200 energy or so?
You're probably right, because
that's just one medevac.
That's the only way that Violet is going to be able to, or that Violet is going to be able to win a straight-up engagement, is if he is able to use the full energy of his infestors and drop it out across the whole army. I think you're exactly right.
Very sick move there by Polt, but this is really nice by Violet as well. Tanks in the front, very good job, able to zone those infestors out.
And there are banelings sitting right underneath those tanks. If the Marines actually move up afterwards, that would be devastating. More workers going down, though. I'm not actually sure.
Oh, he scanned.
Oh, wow, he picks them off. Good job. So Polt's going to be able to siege up this base, no problem.
In the meantime, the Marines defending the SCVs there. Polt a little bit flustered as he hasn't resumed mining yet from his SCVs. Now he's going to do that. Violet going to lose that 4th base, most likely, as he's just mining minerals from that 3rd base. So the infestors that Violet has are the infestors that he's going to be able to have for the next few minutes or so. 10 infestors, that is what he has. The rest is kind of throwaway army, really.
Okay, so Polt's now having to deal with another Zergling counterattack, but he's already prepared with Marines. No stim, it doesn't need it. The Zerglings run away, and he holds on to his economy once again while he continues to siege up at the front. And now he is in range of this hatchery. He forces all of the drones off of mining. Violet has to run away. He has to make a stand right here. If he loses this hatchery again, that is going to be it.
What a sick game, seriously.
I know. Back and forth, just constant aggression. In this day of StarCraft where we have so many just huge, big 200 food engagements, wait until it happens. It's so fun to see this constant aggression.
So, Kevin, since he sacrificed that 3rd base, it means that Violet is hoping for one thing and one thing alone. Perfect positioning and a mistake by Polt, clumping up.
But is he going to get it? The banelings are actually used here to continue pressuring, but more Marines get funneled in, and no more economic damage has really been done. And Violet meant to do serious economic damage because he really needs those forces up at the front. A few more workers go down. Polt is actually only down to 10 workers, but he can use them so much more efficiently than Violet can that it's actually a better economic situation for him.
And he still has 2 orbitals, which can make mules, and Violet's Zerglings are still only 1-2, so those Marines were able to clear up those Zerglings. Imagine if the Zerglings were 2-2, they would have killed all the Lings and all the SCVs.
And there's no economy whatsoever for Violet at the moment. So he's not producing anything. He's got 4 Lings from a while ago. That was his last 100 resources. And it looks like he's going to try for it right now. Drops out a few of those infested Terrans to draw fire from the siege tanks. Now actually just trying to pick off a couple of tanks, but Polt has enough Marines positioned around that he deals with those pretty effectively.
Nice scan there, preventing any more infestors from coming in. Those 1 or 2 infestors or so did kill 2 tanks, so nice job there. 2 more tanks going down. Very effective use of Violet's infestors there, but he's being pushed into a corner. There's only 6 infestors left, and it looks like Polt has more army than could possibly be fungled to death. In come infested Terrans against normal Terrans, and it looks like the normal Terrans are going to win the day for now.
Even if just barely, Polt takes it. There's GG, we're tied up. We're moving to game number 5. The last Terran in the tournament stays alive. And what a game there from Polt. There were a couple of moments that he did a lot of damage at the very beginning. A great Marauder Hellion attack. But he decided not to press in and go for the kill. Violet, with his backstabs, was able to do serious economic damage. Use those hidden infestors. Was able to take out the economy of Polt. Polt, though, did not waver in the face of danger. Came right back and took the game.
He laughed in the face of danger, and Violet, oh, they both played so good. We saw both of these players at their best here, and what fireworks it was. 2-2, this is like a dream. The final game, this looked like the final game. And,
I know.
And of course for Polt it was. And that is probably why he didn't push in with all those Marauders, with those Hellions into that natural. What patience and what, just waiting for that final moment.
That's right, guys. Now, the winner of this will move on to play Lenok in the grand finals with a $40,000 first prize. And that is going to play out as a best of 5. If the